Good afternoon, evening, colleagues. Welcome to all of you who are joining from a different part of the world. So we can just wait for 1 more minute. I know we have only 1 hour session, but it is good that at least we have few more participants to join, and then we can start this session. Okay, so welcome to all of you. I'm very happy to be part of today's discussion with all of you, and I hope you all can hear me loud and clear. So let me start first to introduce myself so that you all can know me. So I'm Nisar Sayed. I'm the Chief of Global Cluster Coordination Unit with Unicef EMOPS, Emergency Operation based here in Geneva, where Unicef hosts the all global clusters. So very happy to be chairing the today's session. Let me first introduce the agenda of the today discussion. We will start with the opening comments from the Global Nutrition Cluster, Stefano, and also from Alliance, Colleen. So with that opening remarks, then we will go straight into the detailed summary of the overall process of the Global Nutrition Cluster Strategy, on which Anna will take us through, and this will take approximately around 20 minutes so that we have a detailed discussion on it. Then before opening the floor for discussion, we will also listen from other partners who are the main stakeholders and also from the field. So I will request Saul from UNICEF to give us an idea on the UNICEF vision on nutrition for 2030, and also from the field, the National Cluster Coordinator from Afghanistan, Herman, who will also tell us some of the field experience with us. Then we will have the discussion, question answer, but I will encourage all of you during that presentation that if you have any question, please use the chat, and we will be closely monitoring the chat. And then at the end, we will come up with a panel to answer your questions, and we will also take questions during that period. And then we will close with the final concluding remarks from the Global Nutrition Cluster Coordinator, Mr. Stefano. So with that brief intro on the introduction on the agenda of the today discussion, without taking any further time, I will pass the floor to Stefano, who is the Global Nutrition Cluster Coordinator, to take the floor and to have some opening remarks on the today's session. Over to you, Stefano.
Thank you very much, Nisar. And first of all, I would like to thank everyone for the extensive and enthusiastic contribution to the various consultation surveys. Sorry, looks like my camera is it showing?
It's okay.
So as I was saying, I really would like to thank everyone for the fantastic contribution to the various consultations, surveys, and global meetings, which have allowed us to develop a strategy for the next 4 years, which I trust adequately reflects our shared vision and commitment. That has not been easy, but I think I believe it's a very good product. The cluster approach has always been in constant evolution since its creation, with the humanitarian reform of 2005, which was after the Darfur and tsunami crisis. I've been involved with the GNC since 2008, and in the last 13 years, I've seen major progress in the strengthening of our predictability, accountability, and partnership. But the humanitarian challenges continue to evolve and increase in both scale and complexity. The previous GNC strategy was already good and already included key priorities like improving the quality of coordination, the need to invest in people, increased accountability to affected population, and actually, especially in the component to the GNC efforts had been widely praised. And also the need to have greater contribution to the humanitarian development nexus and the need to increase the reach and scope of technical assistance and support. My colleague Colleen will tell you a little bit more about that later on. As I joined the GNC coordination team in 2019, it was clear, and many donors were telling us, and partners in the field, that there were still important gaps in the quality, coherence, and consistency of our approach. And these gaps needed addressing. But some of the barriers and bottlenecks were deeply rooted. So at the time, when I first arrived here, we thought that tangible progress could only be achieved over the full course of the new strategy by 2025. The ongoing COVID crisis has severely tested our collective capacity, but it has also provided the unique opportunity to develop remote online platforms for guidance and capacity building, to strengthen collaboration with other clusters for greater convergence of efforts at the same place and at the same time, for greater engagement of partners at the national and local level, allowing us to more than double the number of countries supported, and also open access to any country which may benefit from our tools, guidance, and technical expertise. The GNC collective's commitment and determination in the ongoing COVID response has been widely recognized as a positive model by humanitarian and development partners, both in nutrition and other sectors. And we sincerely hope that we will continue to build on the progress made. Thank you very much. Over to you, Nisa.
Thank you, Stefano, for your strong message, and I think you set the stage very well, and you also link on all the challenges and opportunities based on the COVID response. May I request now Colleen, who is the co-chair of the Alliance, that she can also say a few words. Over to you, Colleen.
Thank you. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you all. I greet you today from Canada. Thank you for the opportunity to share some reflections today on behalf of the GNC Technical Alliance. As we look ahead to the next 4-year strategy period, I'd like us to take a few minutes to reflect back on where we've come from. So let's go back to 2015. It was at the 2015 GNC annual meeting, which was held in Kenya, where conversations began as to the role of the GNC in supporting technical NIE issues. At that meeting, challenges were raised around operational gray zones, those being the technical areas with NIE for which there was no normative guidance, or the guidance that did exist needed to be adapted for a new context. In addition, the limited technical capacity to respond to NIE needs on the ground was made clear. At that meeting, a decision was made to reassess and more clearly define the role of the GNC with respect to technical NIE matters. This was an important shift at that time because the GNC was firmly focused on its core functions of coordination and information management. What followed in the years between 2015 and the official launch of the Alliance late last year was a collective effort by all of us to define what a technical support initiative should look like within the GNC collective. This included putting together a small working group of GNC partners that looked at what other clusters were doing and how they were providing technical support. And I'm sure, as all of you can reflect back on, GNC meetings between 2016 and 2019 were a time where the structures, the guiding principles, the definitions of what now forms the Alliance were brought forth, and were in those meetings a lot of back and forth to shape the Alliance. This was also a time when pieces of what now the Alliance were put into place and were up and running. So for example, the former tech RRT team and the help desk, they got up and running in this period and were providing much needed technical support at the time. All this is to say, the evolution of the Alliance has truly been a collective effort amongst all of us. And today, with the involvement of over 145 individuals representing 40 different organizations, it's clear that there is a strong will among us all to improve NIE programming on the ground. Since December of 2020, when the Alliance officially launched, we have responded to over 200 requests from 58 different countries around the world. I encourage you, if you haven't done so already, to take a look at the operations support dashboard we have on our website, and that shows you a little bit more about what requests have come in, where they've come in from, and what technical areas they are for. So, what's ahead? The Alliance is committed to continuing to provide the delivery of our core services, and these are providing quick access to technical advice or resources, providing access to in-depth support, providing development of learning products in response to gaps that are identified from the field. And we will do all of this with a lens of continuing to learn, so that we'll be sure that the Alliance is adaptive in order to fit the needs that come up. So if you are not yet involved in the work of the Alliance and would like to be, please reach out to us. There are many, many opportunities to engage. And lastly, when I think on the principles and the evolution of the Alliance, I think this well-known African saying fits well. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you need to go in a group or together. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Colleen, with a very strong message which you were mentioning. If we want to go far, we know we need to go in a group or collectively, and you have mentioned also about that before going ahead, we need to reflect on the past, and very clearly you mentioned about the strengths of the technical alliance with this rich 40 organization and closely 150 individuals, which is an asset to the nutrition in emergency groups. So thank you, Colleen, for this. So now I will request Anna, who is the Deputy Global Cluster Coordinator, to take us through the summary of the global nutrition strategy, that where we stand and what process was all adopted. And at the same time, I will also request to all of you, if you have any questions, please use the chat, and also then when we will open for discussion, we will take question at that time as well. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you very much, Nisar. Before I go directly to the presenting strategy, I just want to take a couple of minutes to reflect on the process on the development of the strategy since our last meeting, GNC annual meeting. We all have done a great job during this meeting, where we have, as you remember, developed the challenges and also solutions to those challenges for the key issues that we have in nutrition and emergency sector. So what we have done afterwards is just we took all the information, all the developments during the annual meeting. We had some discussions with the GNC technical Alliance, with the Strategic Advisory Group, GNC Coordination Team. We had some discussions on the key outstanding issues with the key stakeholders, and basically we just put everything together in a way that fits our vision, goal, and mission as we identified during our consultations. So here is our strategy, and as we agreed, and there was not many changes since our last discussion, is that by the end of 2025, the nutritional status of the most vulnerable people is protected in countries at risk of or with ongoing situations of fragility. And our goal would be to focus on the 80 countries with such situations so that they can benefit from regular support from the GNC collective to develop or strengthen national and subnational technical and coordination capacities for nutrition. Now I would like to stop a little bit more on key changes from how we have been working in the past. Stefano has already mentioned few, but to summarize now, from the focus on coordination in the previous strategy, we are now looking holistically on both coordination and program, with the program component being led by the GNC Technical Alliance, as mentioned by Colleen during her opening remarks. We are also focusing from officially activated ISC clusters to supporting both cluster and sectoral coordination mechanisms on nutrition and emergency. We are shifting from providing support during NIE response and recovery phases to also include support to national governments and local authorities during the preparedness for emergencies for humanitarian crisis. Another shift is from supporting national coordination platform to looking at national and subnational coordination platform and partners, so expanding our scope, taking into account recent localization discussions. And the last but not least, from the focus on global level coordination platforms to maximizing support provision from national, regional, and global level platforms. Now, in order to achieve this, we have developed 3 key strategic objectives. One of them is focusing on people, another one on operational and technical support, and third one on ensuring enabling environment for our work. I will talk a little bit more about each of them in my presentation. So the first objective around people is focusing on supporting countries, Unicef as a cluster lead agency for nutrition, and nutrition partners at all levels to ensure that they are adequately staffed and skilled to prepare for, respond to, and recover from situations of fragility. And our target is that at least 70% of GNC priority countries have adequately staffed and trained nutrition personnel in place at both national and subnational levels. Now, in terms of the GNC priority countries, as you can imagine, that's not set in stone, and based on the situation, it varies. You can see in our strategies the definition of how we define what our priority countries are. But now you can see also a map of overview of our current priority countries, which is about 60 countries that we aim to support as a global nutrition cluster. Now I'll go through the core initiatives, which are the main programs or projects that we identified are important to address key challenges in this area, and which we are planning to implement in the next 4 years. I think that this is one of the main part of the presentation, and while I will be going through core initiatives for each strategic objective, could you please just keep in mind your own potential contribution to those initiatives, whether you would like to lead on any of those initiatives or whether you would like to participate on this, and we will come back to this at the end of the presentation. So, first of all, in this objective, we want to achieve that we have right people. In order to do that, first we will look into defining what are the key bottlenecks or why nutrition and emergency partner capacity is not meeting minimum quality NIE programming standards. And we will determine opportunity and implement them on addressing this. We are also currently working with other UNICEF-led clusters on the development of the guidance for the cluster lead agency on the minimum structure of the coordination teams. So it's clear for the country offices what structure they should put in place to ensure coordination. And as in parallel, we are working on updating generic job descriptions for coordinators and information managers at national and subnational levels. Now, to ensure that these people who will be hired in programs and in coordination have the right skills, first of all, we will be looking at the development of a capacity strengthening pathway for nutrition and emergency functions, especially focusing on availability to and access by local partners. We will ensure that capacity assessment tools for nutrition and emergency are available in priority languages and utilized annually at country, regional, and district levels. We are also planning to expand our successful GNC coordination team mentoring programs, which is currently delivered to coordinators and information managers, to also include NIE practitioners in countries. We will be working on implementations of the GNC capacity strengthening framework for coordination and information management, as well as developing, translating into key priority languages and rolling out our GNC e-learning platform that we started developing in response to COVID-19. And the last focus in the strategic objective is to ensuring that our people with the right skills are available at the right time. So to achieve this, we will explore the barriers to maintaining appropriate human resources in key positions for NIE programming and determine the ways on how to address them. We're also planning to establish and annually update a global level pool of nutrition and emergency coordinators and IMOs to streamline and facilitate the country level recruitment process. And we will be continuing maintaining and rolling out further our roster of internationally available consultants and deployers in key NIE roles. The second strategic objective is about operational and technical support, which we provide to countries to ensure that nutrition-related decisions and operational support at all levels are guided by timely and sound technical advice, while documentation of experiences is undertaken and new evidence is generated. As you see, we now not only focus on operational and technical support, but also there is a huge component of the knowledge management for this work. And we will be targeting at least 70% of coordination teams in nutrition partners in priority countries to utilize our operational or technical support every year, including in the area of knowledge management. Now, the core initiatives are formed around 4 areas. The first one is nutrition information systems and ensure that we have data-informed programming. The key initiatives, which will be led by the Nutrition Information Systems Working Group, is to examine barriers and enablers in the establishment of monitoring and evaluation frameworks and nutrition information systems in countries, and develop a guidance to facilitate this process. We will also map existing data collection methodologies, which now exist in situation of limited or no physical access, and develop a guidance and tool for such cases, which are becoming more and more often needed. We will also work on creating open source nutrition and related data, such as other clusters or sectorial data platform, which will be available from the subnational to global level. And in addition to this, develop a predictive analytics system to nowcast and forecast nutrition situation in priority countries in a timely manner. The second set of initiatives is focusing around nutrition-specific and nutrition-sensitive interventions, and this will be led by the GNC Alliance. So we are planning to develop a toolkit for measuring the coverage of essential nutrition in emergency interventions, not only wasting, but all of them. Develop principles for the contextualization of the NIE programs. Develop a methodology for conducting cost-effectiveness analysis of NIE programs, and develop program guidance for people in different age categories, not only focusing on the children 6 to 59 months of age, but before and after. We are also planning to develop an analysis framework examining the barriers faced by other sectors in integrating nutrition. The major next area of our core initiatives is focusing on the cross-cutting issues. We are planning to develop a common approach to mainstreaming cross-cutting issues into NIE coordination and programming, and not only focusing it on ad hoc different cross-cutting issues. We will designate focal persons for priority cross-cutting issues, including for in-country support, and we will have actually a separate discussion with you on how we are going to do that. We will map and collate guidance for mainstreaming priority cross-cutting issues in nutrition that already exist in different countries and different settings. And based on this, develop simple practical tools for mainstreaming this in NIE programs and coordination. Before I go further, I just want to quickly present the cross-cutting issues that we identified as priority for our next 4 years. This will be accountability to affected population, disability, gender mainstreaming, including GBV, humanitarian development nexus, and localization. Now, the last set of core initiatives is in the strategic objectives is around preparedness and transition. So the first one is to revise the GNC emergency response preparedness guidance based on the pilots that we conducted last year and roll out the GNC emergency response planning platform. Emergency preparedness response and preparedness platform that we piloted as well last year. In terms of the transition, we are planning to develop a series of case studies on why some countries are unable to make the transition to sector coordinators, while other countries are successfully operating ex-sectorial coordination, and based on this to develop guidance to enable nutrition cluster transition to sectorial coordination, and we are planning to do it together with other clusters as possible. Now, the third strategic objective is about building an enabling environment for us to operate at all levels. It consists of 2 main objectives, to be a driver of change for improved collaboration, partnership, and innovation on nutrition. And the second one is around creating a supportive financial and policy environment, both inside the global nutrition cluster and outside. And we are targeting to have at least 20 examples per year where our collective advocacy and resources have been used to influence the decision-making on nutrition and emergency and humanitarian coordination at different levels. Now, in order to achieve this enabling environment, we are planning to work on the 4 different components: advocacy, financing, collaboration and partnerships, and research and innovation. So in terms of the advocacy, we recently formed advocacy working group at global level to guide our work in this area. In the next years, we are planning to enable country-driven nutrition and emergency advocacy throughout the rollout of GNC advocacy toolkits that was developed a few years ago, and one-on-one country support, deployment of advocacy specialists, and capacity strengthening of our coordination teams on advocacy. We are planning to review existing practices on advocacy and develop a system of advocacy information exchange between subnational, national, regional, and global levels, and update the nutrition cluster advocacy strategic framework in line with the new strategy, and develop and implement advocacy and communications working group work plan. So as you see at this point, our advocacy actions, concrete advocacy actions, are not yet defined, but we are already working on developing this strategic framework and the work plan. The next area is on financing. Ensuring enabling financing, and the plan is that we will be forming a working group to look at this as well. The key initiatives here are to develop mapping of the current and prospective NIE resource partners, funding opportunities, and entry points for increased advocacy for NIE funding. Jointly with traditional donors to develop an understanding of administrative and legislative challenges that prevent current funding from being more rapid, more flexible, and covering longer periods that it currently does. And based on this, develop a communication strategy and narrative around nutrition in emergency to increase our financing at different levels. In terms of research, which would be led by the Technical Alliance, we will develop and implement GNC strategy on knowledge management, learning and research, and strengthen country access to available research, and ensure that there is a mechanism to identify research gaps within our NIE programming. The very last set of core initiatives is about inclusive multi-sectoral nutrition coordination. First of all, we would look at the current methodologies and practices in nutrition and emergency sector, in other sectors, for engagement population and accountability to affected population, and develop clear guidance and tools for standardized engagement system to capture beneficiary feedback and use this feedback to inform programming as well as our coordination. We are also planning to review current engagement of communities, local NGOs, community-based organizations, private organizations, academic institutions, and local authorities in our sector at all levels, and develop recommendations for our countries for regional level and for us at the global level to better engage with them. We are planning to finalize and roll out our newly established intersectoral platform at global level and support national coordination mechanisms to strengthen multi-sectoral coordination and identify and implement solutions to promote equitable sectoral funding in support of multi-sectoral programming. We also planning to map all humanitarian and development networks and other groups with an interest in nutrition and identify the GNC LU-wedded elements and their mode of engagement in support of our strategy. We are going to talk a little bit more about the GNC structure in the webinar, which will be organized on the 1st of December at the same time. But just a sneak peek on our new updated the GNC structure, which you can also find in the GNC strategy link, to which you will see in the chat. Now, next step. As I mentioned during my presentation, please look at what you would be interested to participate in. And we would be very grateful if once you identify, you can contact me, Stefano, Colleen, Megan, or anybody from the Alliance or coordination team, indicating in which core initiatives you are interested to participate. That is important because when we are developing the annual work plan for the next year, we will be based on what we can do and on the interest from you to actually lead and participate in some of initiatives. So please, if you remember something from my presentation, is to reach out to us and say what you would be interested to participate in. In the parallel, we are now working on finalization of the standard operating procedure for us, which we are revising in line with the new strategy. And in this webinar on the 1st of December, we will present the GNC structure and all the updates which we are making to the standard operating procedure. And based on all of this, we will develop the 2022 GNC work plan, which will be launched in December. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna, for this comprehensive and concise presentation on taking us all at the same level, that the what process was adopted and what are the strategic priorities, and then within each priority, what are the core initiatives which we are looking and a way ahead. So I will again encourage those participants, all those who are online, if you have any questions, please use the chat, and then maybe in the next 10 minutes, then we can also open for questions if you have specific questions on strategy or any clarification to Anna. So now I will request Saul to come in and to present the UNICEF vision for the next coming years, 2030, so that is UNICEF is one of the key player in nutrition. So it's good that how much it is aligned what the Global Nutrition Cluster and the Technical Alliance is planning for the coming 3 years. Saul, over to you.
Thank you, Nisar, and thanks everybody for the opportunity to talk to all of you. It's great to see everybody in the room. And I just want to start by thanking Stefano and Anna for their amazing leadership in the process of putting together this new strategy. I personally feel that it represents a substantial leap from the work that was being done before, and I think it's a substantial leap in no small part thanks to their vision and leadership, but also in their capacity to really harness the collective ideas and priorities through what is now a really strong cluster, structured in a way where it feels like some of the best ideas are floating to the surface, and that's a great testament to both Anna and Stefano, but also obviously to everybody here. As you said, Nisar, for UNICEF, this new strategy represents an important moment to also present our vision of nutrition in emergencies. As cluster lead agency, we have a responsibility not only to support Stefano and Anna in the development of the strategy for the cluster, but in also being clear about two things. Number one is, what is the future of nutrition in emergencies, and how will the next decade or 2 decades look different to the previous decade or 2 decades? A lot of what you have heard this morning from Anna and everybody else is based on a series of assumptions about what is it that is working well, what is it that is working less well, what is it that is going to change entirely in the nutrition and emergencies ecosystem, and that therefore requires new things that we weren't really working on at all before. But all of those assumptions about what the future holds really need to be concentrated or collated or synthesized in a place. And that's where the vision statement that you alluded to, Nisar, comes in. It feels really, really important that UNICEF as the cluster lead agency can put that vision forward to say, we are trying to build systems and structures and partnerships and networks to deal with this version of the future. There's so many potential ways in which things could play out and so many assumptions one could make. But this vision statement, what it really enables us to do is to really sort of say, this is the assumptions that we're making about the future and why these strategies are therefore built in the way that they are. That document will emphasize many of the points that Anna just highlighted in her introduction, as well as Colleen, including the fundamental commitment to make sure that we have the right people doing the right things in the right places at the right time. That has to be at the core of what we're doing. But defining what right means is where I think that vision and that context analysis becomes really, really important, because what was right in the last decade might not be right in the next decade. But there's just a whole range of things that I think we're trying to factor in defining where are we coming from, where are we going to. And so that will be an important part of it. And the second, I think, really important part of this is to then situate the role of UNICEF within that vision of the future. It's not just an assessment that we are making from our vantage point. It is also an assessment that we are making about where we sit in that ecosystem, and not only as cluster lead agent, but agency, but also just in general as an operating agency. What does the world need from us beyond just providing the world with a place to embed the nutrition cluster? And I think that fundamental question of what is it that we can hold ourselves accountable for in this future of nutrition in emergencies, beyond the accountabilities that we of course have as part of the strategy that Anna already laid out, is the second really important feature, right? On both elements, both that general vision for NIE as well as the general vision for UNICEF's role in NIE over the next decade, there's one fundamental thing that we are keeping at the core, and that is that we can do a heck of a lot better, right? That's the fundamental assumption, both as a collective, as an ecosystem responding to nutrition and emergencies, but even as UNICEF, that there is a heck of a lot that we can do to be better and more fit for purpose in the context of NIE. So know that as we present this over the coming weeks to you all, at the heart, you should be looking for that. How are they? What are the assumptions that we are making around what the next decade holds, but also what are the the concrete elements that we can bring into it to make sure that we are better than we have ever been to respond to the new challenges. So on that note, I just want to say thanks to once again to all of you, and to Stefano and Anna in particular for the leadership in putting together this new strategy. And I hope that a lot of the work that we can bring in to the picture will neatly complement what has already been presented. So thank you, Nizar, and everybody.
Thank you, Sol, for your inputs and for your points, specifically when you mention about the SWOT analysis, that what worked well, what didn't work well, and then keeping this all in consideration when we plan for the next decade and holding this all together. And also your message, much appreciated, that beyond the cluster lead agency, that what UNICEF can bring and support to contribute on those priorities which are coming. Now from Paul, I will go straight to at the field level, and I will request Herman, who is the National Cluster Coordinator from Afghanistan for nutrition, so he can take floor and he can also few words. Over to you, Herman.
Thank you very much, Nasir. Greetings to everyone in this platform. All protocols observed. That's a great opportunity for me to provide some comments over the GNC strategy from my background as cluster coordinator in Afghanistan and also in some other countries. So many good things to say, but I will just focus on a few points around its coherence. I really, and we really find this strategy coherent. First of all, I would talk to the internal coherence, so to speak, in the sense that all the three pillars are well connected to each other. Indeed, it takes adequate human resources, a conducive environment, and technical support whenever needed for a country cluster coordination team to successfully deliver on the cluster functions. So that level of coherence is very well acknowledged. And secondly, I would like to speak to its external coherence, so to speak, in the sense that it really speaks to current needs for support that a country team may be in need of. I can remember the time when, under nutrition in emergency, we were heavily grounded on the costly treatment programming, busy procuring and distributing treatment commodities, until the realization that we are just trying to fill a bottomless pit. We then moved to a broader nutrition programming with more consideration to prevention, including nutrition-sensitive interventions. And here I'm talking about collaboration with other clusters. And then the need to embrace cross-cutting matters has become critical. And here I'm talking about gender mainstreaming, protection mainstreaming, and all that Anna was talking about. So this strategy, by covering all these components, truly corresponds to the needs on the ground. And as we are right in the HPC process, we will surely be looking into reflecting this strategy into our response plans. External coherence, also looking at both GNC strategy and structure, We have seen all pieces of the GNC structure coming one by one, especially in the form of help desks over the past couple of years. And clearly, as we speak, we can see consistency between the strategy, this strategy, and the structure that has been put in place. And this makes us very much confident that whatever the area of support needed, it will be fulfilled. And I have personally successfully engaged with and have been engaged by people in various positions within that structure. So this is really a great and relevant piece of work to us. And I would like to say sincere thanks to the team for the colossal effort that has been imparted into this. Great achievements comes from great teams. So thank you, GNC team, for being great in serving us. Over to you, Nisa.
Thank you, Herman, for your wise words and for your suggestions, and you put it in a very right way that needs our own ground. So the policies and the strategies work well when it address the needs. And you also put very well this together, the coherence process when it comes to internal and external. So thank you to all of you. So I know it was a long presentation from our side. So now I will open for any question and answers and for any clarification. We do have 10 minutes remaining, but we have on panel Stefano, Anna from Global Nutrition Cluster, and then from the Technical Alliance, we have Colleen and Megan also on this. So anyone who has any question or any clarification. So I didn't see any points in the chat box. So if anyone has any question, they can raise or they can come in. Maybe look either too technical or maybe it was very clear to everyone. So while others are coming, maybe one question from my side on the process, how in this process you engage the inter-sectorial or the inter-cluster collaboration was addressed, because there was many points where the other clusters or sectors can work together, specifically when it comes to the intersectorial part. So maybe I can start and take this opportunity, my first question to the panel. And meanwhile, I can ask others if they have any questions or any clarification.
Thank you, Nisar. I'm happy to take the tricky question. So there were several layers of consultation. First, we had several surveys for not only for internal but also external stakeholders. We were sending it to other global cluster coordinators for coordination teams. We were sending them to SAN, to UN Nutrition. So basically, everybody we could identify who is working in the areas of our interest. And then secondly, when we had the annual meeting and we had the discussion specifically on the intersectoral collaboration, on cross-cutting issues, on working with other sectors, we also invited all the relevant partners and our colleagues who were there together with us working on the challenges and solutions. And then we took all of this into the development of the strategy.
Thank you, Anna. So, anyone else? Any question?
Nisa, if you allow me.
Yes, Herman, please.
Yeah, mine is about the HDN has a cross-cutting matter in this strategy. I know, for example, that as far as nutrition is concerned at global level, we have the Scaling Up Nutrition has a platform for coordination when it comes to essentially nutrition for development. I haven't been clear on how this strategy connects. What are the anchorage points to that other platform? I think this can also help us at national level, especially in countries where we are having both cluster and sun movement. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you,
Herman.
Yeah,
Yes, I'm happy to take it, but I know I also saw Stephen from Sun Movement is on the line, so I will start replying. And Stephen, sorry to put you on a spot. If you have something to add, please feel free. So we significantly improved, in my opinion, our collaboration with the Sun Movement at global level last year. And as many of you hopefully remember, we had a series of case studies documented on how countries are working together between the Sun Movement and coordination teams. And based on this, we developed a guidance which is basically about how all countries should be working internally between the coordination team and the Sun Movement. The guidance was distributed through both the Global Nutrition Cluster and also Sun Movement. And we had a series of webinars to partners, to coordination teams, explaining the guidance and asking for them to identify what is their key priority. So our first ask was actually for the cluster coordinators and for the Sun focal points to meet if they have not met yet, and start based on this guidance, discuss how they can work together. And now we are also working with the Sun Movement on development of some online modules to further strengthen and develop the capacity of both our people to actually work on this. Stephen, do you have something to add?
Yes, but maybe I'll let Stefano come first.
Yes, Stefano, over to you.
Thank you. Just very briefly to mention that obviously the close collaboration with the Sun Movement is critical in bridging the gap between humanitarian and development investment, policies, programs, and results. But I think that the vast majority of partners that of the GNC work in both development and humanitarian context. And it's really important that we also see how each organization can contribute to make sure that every humanitarian action plan and response maximize the opportunity for building resilience for the national and local partners, making sure that there is the systems really contribute to strengthening the capacity for greater and longer lasting impact. And that can be done through a variety of measures. Now, the GNC does not expect to take GNC coordination team does not expect to take a leadership role in every context, but we certainly can be a very active partner in making sure that the tools, guidance, and technical expertise currently available to our collective can be made available to any country in all contexts that wishes to strengthen its programmatic capacity and coordination capacity as part of an intersectoral collaboration mechanism, because obviously that's the only way to address multidimensional vulnerability, which is our overall goal. Over, Stephen, thanks.
Thank you, Stefano. Over to you, Stephen.
Yes, hello everybody. Thank you very much for allowing me to participate in this launch, and I think as Sol said, thank you very much to Anna, to Stefano, and all the participants that contributed to this excellent strategy. And I think it does. For me, it's quite clear that the stress on the multi-sectoral approach and the multi-stakeholder approach for approach to nutrition in emergencies very much reflects the whole SUN philosophy and approach of the multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder approach, which is why obviously the linkages between the two platforms as such is so obvious. And I think that just with the guidance note that Anna mentioned, and maybe just some sort of reminders of, do reach out to SUN if you're cluster, and SUN, reach out to the cluster, because in my mind, the center of the SUN approach is for the government to establish a multi-stakeholder, multi-sectoral platform to have an all of government and all of sector and all of actor approach to malnutrition. From a government perspective, obviously a sustainable long-term positive impact. But if countries unfortunately do have crisis and have emergencies, then it's quite clear that if that multi-stakeholder platform does not include the humanitarian actors, the emergency actors from the nutrition cluster and the other clusters, it will not have served its purpose. Again, SUN is not an agency, it's not a program, it's a philosophy. And the philosophy means that nutrition is so complex, it needs everybody to be involved. And for it to be holistic and inclusive, it obviously needs to include the humanitarian actors, for the purpose of also helping them do their work, capacity building government to take over some of the maybe sort of the more preventative resilience projects, and have their own emergency preparedness things in place. So as I said, I think that we have over the last few years been working very closely with GNC being involved in the SUN strategy development and rollout, and vice versa. And I think it's great, and I hope that we will be catalytic together to again tackle the whole spectrum, the continuity of needs, and as Stefano said, to build long-lasting nutrition resilience that we need everywhere. Thank you very much, and great launch. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefano, and it was very good to know that how the SUN and the GNC, they all are working closely, and they are part of each other's strategy and complementing each other. And I hope, Herman, the inputs from Anna, Stefano, and Stephen have answered your questions. So I didn't see any other question, and I'm also very cautious of the time as well. I know you all have a busy schedule. So I know that as what Anna was mentioned in the next step, so there will be more opportunities where you will have to get in touch on other core initiative programs or any other clarifications, and then there will be a webinar on the on upcoming when it comes to the SOPs, when specifically on the structure related as well. So I will close this at that stage when it comes to the question answer session, and I will now request Stefano for any closing remarks or points from your side. So over to you, Stefano.
Thank you, Nisar. Thank you very much for all the great contributions and comments. It's really a great pleasure for me to be discussing this new strategy and to be able to support it in the coming future. Now, just a couple of points to resume. The increasing scale and complexity of the global COVID crisis, which compounds pre-existing drivers of malnutrition, including climate change, armed conflict, economic crisis, and large-scale migration and displacement of population, will require an increase in the flexibility and quality of our response. Throughout the various consultations, and in particular during our global meeting, there was very strong commitment from many of you, and I was really impressed by that. Which really was reflected both in the concrete action taken in the last couple of years, but also in the concrete commitment to support the various components of the strategy that were being discussed. I just wanted to also share with you that in the last year, there has been two internal processes of UNICEF as cluster lead agency. One was support of a humanitarian review on how UNICEF supports and contributes to humanitarian responses, and also a review of the role of cluster lead agency of UNICEF for the WASH and nutrition clusters and the education cluster and the area of responsibility of child protection. And the cluster lead agency review, which is being concluded now in the next few days, has already, in addition to the other components, has already sparked very, very interesting discussions in UNICEF at the highest level. And I sincerely hope and trust that in the coming months, you will see major concrete changes in the institutional commitment to coordination prior to, during, and after a crisis. And this will have a possibly major impact on in strengthening the capacity in place with much more coherent and consistent approaches, much more complete coordination and information management teams, drastically reduce deployment gaps, increase in the level of some coordinators to the highest level of seniority, in addition to major enhancements already mentioned earlier on to our technical assistance and support and capacity building. I also, I'm totally confident that we will see, we have already seen some signs of a much closer intersectoral collaboration among all clusters, but in particular with health, WASH, and food security clusters to achieve the maximum convergence of effort for greater contribution to prevention, anticipatory actions, and stronger support of national and local systems and capacity for longer lasting impact. Now, I believe that the new GNC strategy for 2022 to 2025 underscores the continued commitment by all GNC partners and by UNICEF as cluster lead agency to learn from the positive lessons of the last 2 years and ensure a constructive and continued evolution to better support the various agendas, including the HDN agenda, the localization agenda, the accountability to affected population agenda, and really strengthen our capacity for national, regional, and global nutrition programming and coordination to prevent and address malnutrition in all its forms and in all contexts. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefano, for this note and the importance of the intercluster collaboration, which you have mentioned as a priority, and also the commitment from the UNICEF at the institutional level on the sector coordination. So with that, I congratulate all of you, the GNC and all the colleagues who were part of this process. for this successful launch and this close coordination with all the partners on this process. And I hope the next step, the way it was presented to you, all will be working together as it is planned. And thank you to all of you for your participation in this today's launch, and wish you all, wherever you are, a good day or a good evening. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, thanks.